to show you.
So we're outside of undisclosed location, about to watch Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Now,
I don't remember these fucking books at all.
Yeah.
I believe that you two have repressed the memory of these stories because they were my childhood. I basically blame Alvin Schwartz and especially Stephen Gamel for turning me into the freak I am today, because these stories and illustrations traumatized me.
See, the issue with that is that, like, taking a look back at these stories, they're all basically just, like, vanilla campfire stuff.
They're folk tales.
Right.
They're folk tales from lots of different, especially American.
They're scary stories to tell in the dark with your friends. Like, you know, and they even actually have vocal direction. Like, here, scream this part. Ah, I'm coming for your eyeballs, or fucking whatever it is.
But what made them special?
What made them special is the freak-ass illustrations by Stephen Gamel. Gamut. Who the fuck knows? I
think Gamel, but
I don't know.
You know,
We'll find out.
I probably should have looked that up before.
It'll be here.
Yeah, the illustrations are really the only thing I remember from those books.
Charcoal and ink, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And they are freaky as fuck. And apparently the rest of his art is also that weird.
He illustrates lots of children's books, and even the family-friendly, sunshiny children's books still have weird, drippy, gross people.
Wow.
It's awesome. It's amazing. I love it.
The pictures are really the only thing that I remember from those books. And I remember that those pictures terrified me. Mm-hmm. I couldn't even look at the covers of the books.
But when
at some times.
But when you look at the stories, it's literally like they're urban legends.
I'm afraid that we woke something up. Sarah Bellows is a myth.
Do you know what you have done?
So, kind of going in blind. I haven't seen trailers. I just know that it's coming out. I haven't seen a commercial.
Okay, well, that's cool.
What do you guys think we're in for?
My first instinct when I heard they were making it was, okay, that's gonna suck. Then I heard two things. Why don't you just jump all over me right there? I heard two things that brought my interest. Guillermo del Toro would be... I thought he might direct it, but apparently he's just a producer. But, okay, you know, he's got his hands involved there. Number two, he personally said the creatures in the film will be faithful to the original illustrations. I said, sold. Give me a ticket right now.
You can trust Guillermo del Toro for creepy monsters.
For creepy monsters, yes. Right. Not always for quality films, but for creepy monsters.
What I'm expecting,
all portrayed by Doug Jones,
is pretty much a reasonably faithful adaptation of the book, wherein the story is really shallow as fuck, but the monsters are neat.
Based on the trailers that I have seen, it looks like instead of... If you were to give this film to me and say, go make a Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark film, what I would have done was an anthology like Creepshow or Twilight Zone, or just do the stories. Here they have tied the stories together in some loose narrative about some teenagers finding a book of scary stories, and the stories come to life.
So
that's what the
joke about the Goosebumps fucking movie.
Yes.
God damn it.
Yes.
Sarah Bellows' book. When the stories write themselves and it all comes alive.
I am not expecting high art.
Right.
But I think we'll enjoy ourselves.
All right. So with that in mind, let's get out of this hot fucking car before somebody calls an ambulance and watch this shit.
All right. First of all, I want to give some spoilers to the movie. So if you're going to see it, go see it. I recommend it. I had a great time watching it. I'm not sure you did, because the second the credits rolled, you made a noise, and I was like, "Oh, we have to talk about that noise."
We're gonna have to. Like,
as soon as it said "Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark," directed by, and you went, "Ugh."
Reason.
And I said, "Okay, I'm done."
Reason being is that, and again, we're going to go into spoilers and everything. There's a fucking sequel hook. They throw a goddamn sequel hook, and the chick is giving her, like, we're gonna find the friends, and blah, 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 as they're driving off onto a road. It's just...
There ain't gonna be no
with
sequel.
Her dad.
No, not
with
at all.
her dad, who didn't know what the frig was going on the whole time.
There ain't gonna be no sequel.
No.
But... I would watch one.
You see,
Who do they think they are? The
I know
Monster Squad?
I'm an easy lay with these movies, but
You really are.
I would watch a sequel to
The
this.
one, City of the Dead.
It was
The
fun.
Dead Next Door.
they did a lot of. What hell, you saw in the one part where it's like, we're not reading the book. Dramatic pause. The book is reading us.
That got an audible groan from all three of us.
I literally
think.
went, ugh.
It was like every trope.
That was in
Like,
the trailer.
It was
too.
like
that
it
was
like
in the
book
trailer,
is
so I
reading-
knew it was coming.
You don't read the book. The book reads you.
It was like, we're not reading the book is reading us. And then she immediately after that said another horror cliche. And then another horror cliche.
It's just-
and then another. It was like
And just-
every single horror cliche in what, 4 lines of dialogue?
And just film the cliches, just in general. It was, and I think my prediction might have actually come out pretty much right. Shitty story, shitty bog standard horror story.
Sure, with the Victorian people and everything.
Ugh.
Yeah, decent creature effects.
Oh, sure,
I mean,
yeah.
that was done well.
It
and-
was as we said in the lead up to watching the film, the creature effects were accurate to the story illustrations with some new additions.
Mhm.
The purpose of the creatures, not 100% accurate. But we can get into that in spoiler territory, so we'll leave spoilers for later. First up, I want to say, yeah, within 30 seconds of this movie starting, I leaned over to you and I was like, this is like a tick the box of this trope, then this trope, then this trope, right away, right off the bat. The first character we see is the dickhead jock character in the varsity jacket.
who I don't know who his fucking actor was, but like,
It looked like a rat.
motherfucker could not. I don't know what he said to the girl in the beginning, but he basically that's how he delivered every one of his fucking lines. Dude didn't know how to fucking like move his mouth when he spoke.
Enunciate.
Unless he was telling the scarecrow to eat shit.
F you, Harold.
Just awful. But like,
But the introductory shot of him with that low angle of him coming out of the store and that his expression on his face was priceless.
Army recruitment.
Is that what he was coming out of? He was coming out of the Army Recruitment
Yeah.
Center, and it was just that. And I really leaned over. I was like, I wonder if he's going to be a douchebag.
yeah, can we talk about like the weird framing device of the 1968 presidential election?
I honestly,
I don't.
maybe
Warning.
I'm.
Warning.
Oh shit!
But yeah, there's. I don't know why they had the weird ass
Nixon
1968 presidential election.
Yeah, maybe
subplot.
maybe I'm dim, but I just couldn't quite connect what Nixon had to do with this story. If they're trying to make some Trump thing, I wasn't connecting the dots.
I have no idea.
I
kind of thought they were with the draft dodger thing.
Well, fine,
But then, like, it kept going back to Nixon, and even in the very beginning, when they walked past that, I guess it was that wall of Nixon posters,
Right.
And the X was made into swastikas.
Was just a swastika on everything. Like,
Yeah.
what exactly
I have
was the?
no idea what they
like,
were trying to say there.
Were they trying to? And this is probably a huge reach, but were they trying to like equate the monsters in the stories to like real life monsters or
Like
or something?
Nixon? Like that doesn't. Yeah. But
I don't know.
what I'm thinking happened is that everything else was so by the numbers that they just had the setting dartboard and we're just like thunk 60s, okay, thunk Nixon. Yeah, we'll do something with that. Like,
Nazis.
it was so it's so not out of place, but it's set in the 60s, so you don't have like, you know, modern technological conveniences. I get that.
That was my first thought was, no, why is it a period piece?
Right.
Is it so that they don't have cell phones? Okay, I have no problem with that. I had no idea it would be a period piece, but it's fine. And they don't have cell phones, and that makes it more difficult to get help. perfectly fine. I got no problem with any of that. But the way they were just hammering on, oh, just so you know, it's the election season. It starts on Halloween 1968, and now it's Nixon, election, Vietnam. I'm like,
Maybe
what are you trying to say?
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe the whole election thing with Nixon was just their way of reminding you that you're watching a period piece instead of having the characters. Yeah,
but it's not needed.
Not needed.
It's we literally, you could have gone the It Follows route and have it
and have it some vague
100%
with a seashell cell phone.
Timeless period.
Yeah, like
seashell cell phone.
Seashell. She sells seashell cell phones.
By the iPhone, sure.
Yeah.
By the iPhone store, the seashore. Yeah, so that didn't really make too much sense to me. I don't know why they did it. Maybe so that they had like somebody that, because the spoiler territory.
Want to get into spoilers? All right.
Where it's the bog standard ghost story.
Sure.
Abused girl, curse, MacGuffin. MacGuffin is kind of like the thing that actually leads to the curse. People getting picked off left and right. With the framing of the ghost girl told scary stories to people
that killed them
through the wall.
Yeah.
Which was weird.
So like
of the basement.
Yeah.
But it turns out that the ghost girl was
a good guy
done wrong, and that's why she's all pissy and angry and stuff.
Well, that's taken directly from one of the stories, the haunted house, where a priest is in the haunted house and he meets the girl and she's all grotesque and scary, skull face looking. Here's a picture. And I expected fully that the character, the scary storyteller that we were not seeing the whole movie would look like that, but they used that face for another character later, the lady who's missing her toe.
Right.
But yeah, that she had been murdered by her husband or something in that house, and he was able to, like, I can't remember exactly how the story goes, because I haven't read it in many years, but yeah, she was more or less a, what's the word for a ghost that is specifically in one place because it was killed and it needs vengeance? Is that phantom?
I don't know the specific terms.
Yeah, but anyway, that was her
Aykroyd,
deal.
He'll be able to tell you. Did it feel draggy to anyone? Either of
I
you?
thought it moved pretty well.
I was engaged for a period of what felt like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's the me Tai me do Walker guy.
The best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Easily the best part of the movie,
Absolutely.
which I totally did not expect.
I fully expected them to pull a Stranger Things thing and have the cop then be like, "Oh fuck, I'm on your side." But
Yes.
they threw that right out the fucking window.
Oh, but it was great. I mean, I can't. Okay, spoilers. Okay, easily the best part of the movie. I had no idea that me Tai Doti Walker was making an appearance in this movie, and they got the goddamn dog barking at the fireplace, and I'm like, I turned to you, I said, if this dog screeches itchy kitchy kali mali dingo dingo at the fireplace, I will squeal. But unfortunately they didn't. They had it, instead it was roofing in the cadence of me Tai Doti Walker. It was going
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, good enough. They're not gonna have the dog talk. I understand that. That would be way overboard. And a head rolls out on the fireplace and lands in center frame, and the eye pops open, and it goes, "Me Tai Doti Walker," and the cop goes, "You gotta be shitting me." That was so
Fantastic.
fun. It was right out of The Thing. That had to be a reference to The Thing, where the head is crawling away. He goes, "You gotta be fucking kidding me." That was so great.
But throughout the entire beginning of the movie, it just I found myself waiting for something to happen, and it felt like I was waiting for far too long.
It did take a really long time to get started.
It was a slow opener.
Or what felt like a really long time. I actually checked my watch, and it was about 10 or 15 minutes before they started actually getting into the actual meat of it.
You know, I mean,
Really?
it was.
But it dragged.
It felt like it was a lot longer than 10
I had to check my watch to see how long it was. That should tell you how long it was.
I disagree. I think it was not draggy. It was kind of classical in the 60s, 70s slow burn way, where it starts out, it introduces some characters, it gives you the setting, and it gets you to like the characters. It gets you to, okay, here's who we're with, now you need to fear for them, and then it introduces issues. I expected us to get to the scary stories faster, but I'm kind of glad we didn't, because by the time they began in earnest with Harold and the Big Toe and whatnot, we knew the people we were dealing with and what we wanted to see happen.
Right.
We knew we wanted the fucking jock to die, and we knew we didn't want the other kids to die. So it was, I feel like it was really effective. If very, very cliched.
It took a bit to ramp up, but once it
Yes.
actually got there, it was all right. I think it was too by the numbers. Too by the numbers, too much like the Goosebumps movie.
Which it had a lot of similarities.
You can't
was-
not make that comparison.
John and I saw the Goosebumps
Yeah.
movie in theaters
Yep.
when it came out,
Yep.
because we just had to, because they were a part of our childhoods
Mm-hmm.
too, and it was terrible.
Goosebumps.
We enjoyed it. For what
Goosebumps
it
was the-
We had fun with it.
Goosebumps was the plywood cutout ghost and pumpkin type of spooky, whereas Scary Stories was the hard shit.
Well,
See-
Scary Stories traumatized me long before I read a Goosebumps book. Then I read Goosebumps. Then when I got older, I moved on to the young adult series by R.L. Stine, Fear Street. You remember Fear Street? It was everything. It kind of dropped all the supernatural shit and instead changed over to, it's all teenagers and somebody's cutting them up. There's some it's always a serial killer or something and murderers. There was no ghosts or shit.
Now,
But-
I want to say,
Off topic, sorry.
I do want to say, and go back to what you said about the slow burn at the beginning. I didn't really care about any of the characters in this movie. August, the annoying one. Chuck, the one who can't stop eating. Ruth, the insufferable bitch of an older sister.
I mean, older sisters are insufferable bitches in these movies,
Well, no, never had one.
and not in the movies. In the movies,
I doubt.
older sisters are insufferable bitches in the movie, and they date the bully. That's the thing.
Stella was the reserved bookworm girl who turned into final girl,
I thought,
which was completely unnecessary.
I thought that they were going to telegraph that Stella was the sister, but it ended up being like the timeline was weird because they were talking about like, oh, they erased the sister from existence. Nobody knows who she is or what she looked like as they panned to Stella.
Okay,
I'm
so
like,
you thought she was going to go back in time and be Sarah
wait
Bellows?
a second, and they kind
but
of
she
did
did.
that.
They definitely
She
did that.
did.
Sort of, as part of like the bog
haunted house
standard,
story.
But,
you have to
yeah.
experience the life of the ghost
In
to
a way,
get
like,
the empathy
we don't
thing.
have the balls to really do this all the way thing.
Right.
And then Ramon Rodriguez / Morales, whichever his last name is.
That he did say Rodriguez is first, and his
Mhm.
real name was Morales. He was using his fake name to avoid the
Oh, okay.
The draft.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's just other guy.
Yeah.
The only unique aspects that they had of this
Were the
movie
monsters.
from any other haunted house ghost movie that you're ever gonna see are the actual individual scary stories.
Are not the scary stories themselves, but the Stephen Gamel inspired
the
imagery.
the
Mhm.
adding of those stories into
Yeah.
the really, really standard haunted house ghost story plot. Yeah.
Can I just say that even though that this movie was basically exactly what I expected it to be, sans two things. I thought it would be worse. I didn't expect it to be as entertaining as it was, and I didn't expect it to be both a period piece and
Yeah.
local.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
set in Pennsylvania, using the
It's
actual
set in southwestern Pennsylvania and
Southeastern?
southwestern.
That's staying in. It's set in southeastern Pennsylvania And they feature the famous / infamous Penhurst Asylum as New Penhurst Hospital because it's 1968, so
Yep.
it was active, it was fresh and clean, and
Yep.
they had just begun torturing insane people there.
I mean, you came into this movie with low expectations from the start, Matt.
I kind of approach most of the movies we watch with really low expectations, and I tend to be pleasantly surprised. I'm a pessimist because when you expect the worst, you're going to be pleasantly surprised when it's good, and when it's bad, you're like, well, I expected that. But if you're an optimist, you go into it with, oh, I hope this is good, you're either going to be disappointed or, yeah, that's what I thought. So
I just
go in with zero expectations, you'll have a good time.
I went into this just hoping to have a little fun and enjoy the time in the theater, and I felt bored.
They
I
did.
did.
They did a lot of stuff that was just like, oh, you're gonna throw that into.
It's like, how many times
How
have we
many-
seen this?
Right. And
How
it's just
many hundreds of other movies has this been
you
in?
can't help but see the wires. In
Mm-hmm.
when you see it, it's like, oh, it's that story element. Oh, okay, so then that story element's going in. Can we talk about jump scares? Now,
This is where I agree with both of you,
Now-
that this movie was extraordinarily, and even by today's standards, extraordinarily over-reliant on this. Wait, God, what is that? Did you? Ah! Like, that's not horror.
no, well,
And
I can forgive that though, because the books themselves were very, very dependent on jump scares. The first
a
three
few stories were.
No, yeah,
A few.
but every single one of the stories that they dealt
The
with
Big
in this
Toe,
movie,
Mitai Doti Walker, and Harold was not. Harold was all atmospheric.
okay.
Harold was all about atmosphere.
but like, so I can forgive the use of that somewhat. But when, all right, the thing, what actually makes scary shit scary is dread.
Mm-hmm.
It's, in the case of movies,
Impending doom.
are these people going to get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
Jump scares aren't scares, they're just
They're startling.
noise that makes things and it's just it, especially when you have like 20 seconds of silence, there's no noise either from the actual soundtrack or in the actual movie itself. You know it's fucking coming.
But they didn't even do that right, because there was moments where everything was loud and
Right.
loud, and we're like during the climax especially, there was a moment where they did a jump scare in the middle of bombastic noise and shit, and we're like, what? You don't need to do that. We're already watching. We're invested. We're
Right.
not looking at our phones. We're watching this. You didn't need to do that.
There's no
It was
need
just
for it.
annoying
There's
as shit.
There's no need for it. It
Well,
was just
yeah.
somebody in the the film exec went to fucking Guillermo del Toro. my neighbor Guillermo del Toro. Anyway, some movie
get it.
exec said like,
I don't.
some movie exec said like, oh, it's 20 minutes. We gotta have a scare.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta have a scare. We have to have like a scare
But
note
in
here,
Hellboy,
here,
I
and
did
here.
not have to do the jump scares in Hellboy.
Just
What did
put in thing.
I don't need to. Oh, okay, if you insist.
Like,
Write the check.
I get it. I get it for the Big Toe one. It was kind of, but it was telegraphed really, really fucking just.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. You get your people get the audience invested in the characters, put them in peril that you don't know whether or not they're going to get out.
They had a moment in
Done.
the Big Toe story where I thought they were actually going to, forgive this, subvert expectations, where he's hiding under the bed and the monster's gonna be up on the bed.
And
You're
like-
like, okay, that would have been fine.
They kind of played with that
They
too.
played
because
with that
he looked-
idea,
Yeah.
but she's not up there. She's under the bed with him somehow.
And then she does the long face
Ah!
scream.
Yeah,
She does
it's
the
like-
fucking long face. Like, it's not. You don't
Ugh.
need to do that. You don't need to do that.
It's unnecessary.
I was expecting them to open up the door, like have
Sure.
the door open and have the kids be there or
Yeah.
something like that. But you don't need. It's cheap.
I don't want to say I didn't like it, because there were moments where I was entertained and I was enjoying the movie, but I just don't feel that the time that I enjoyed the movie was too far and few in between.
Yeah,
There was less enjoyment and more. Really, this is it.
There were very small parts where I was actually engaged.
Yeah,
but that said, I wouldn't recommend seeing it in theaters.
No,
there's nothing added to the theater experience with this. Throw it on inevitably in October when it goes on demand, and it's not a bad flick, but not worth your theater dollar.
No.
Let's put it that way.
Not at all.
Once again, like
Matt.
Dead Next Door, I'm going to be the odd man out and say I would throw a couple of dollars at seeing this in theaters, if only, not because it's a great film, but I enjoyed it, and I want more movies that cater to men in their mid-30s who want to remember their childhoods. Is that where I'm going with this? I guess that's where
sounds
we
about
are.
right. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because there were young people at this movie, and not that it's PG-13, so it's fine for young people. But I'm wondering, are they getting the same thing out of this movie that I am? Because
nostalgia kick sort of thing.
Because as soon as the fucking Mitai Dodie Walker head, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so great, this is amazing. I was laughing my ass off, and I feel like nobody else in that theater had any goddamn clue what was going on. And I'm like, is this the kind of thing where you had to read the book in order to really enjoy the movie?
The book was better!
Yeah. But, there's one thing I wanted to bitch about. The Pale Lady. In the story, the Pale Lady, she was... What was the word I used when I told you about it in the theater?
Yeah, she was a benevolent force.
Yes, she was an omen. She arrived to tell the girl in the story, you need to get out of here, something bad's gonna happen. The girl in the story kept having this dream of a big, fat, pale woman with black eyes saying, you need to get out of here, something terrible's gonna happen, run away. And then one day, her doorbell rang, she opened the door, and the woman was standing there. She just packed a bag and ran the hell out, and that was the end of the story. In the movie, she's actually not there. The boy was having a dream of her saying, this is an evil place, leave while you can. And then when she actually showed up in real life, she absorbed him.
Maybe,
was she not, why is she evil now? What?
Right.
Maybe she wasn't evil. That was her saving him the only way she could.
Doubt it.
Yeah, because the other... See, this is kind of the thing that annoyed me at the end of the movie, is that they did the sequel hook.
Yeah.
Where, I'm gonna find my lost friends.
Couldn't that have been
The
just
secret's somewhere in the book. How? How exactly is the secret somehow in the book?
But couldn't that have just been a satisfying, the story never ends ending, though?
No, it definitely wasn't. Because it was absolutely...
bullshit.
Me and the survivors of this thing are gonna go. It's the ending of Prometheus.
Yeah.
It really is. It's the
I'm
ending
gonna
of
go
Prometheus.
find our engineers. Oh, and Poochie died on his way back to his home planet.
Right. So if we do get a second one, and we're not gonna get a second.
There's not gonna be a sequel to this. There's not gonna be a sequel
unless
to
it takes off of Netflix. And it's
But
not.
they did do a sequel to Goosebumps.
But if there's a sequel, it damn well better be more scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah. No.
Followed by part 3, Scary Stories 3, more tales to chill your bones.
You see,
Yeah.
That was it.
that's going to be the porn remake.